One, two. Grand Rising, beautiful, melanated, original, whatever you respectfully call yourself. People, we are here for attorney Nicole Compton, her 21 Queens event. And we have Azalea,
Aziza.
Aziza Morris. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Forgive me. Aziza Morris in the building. Now, Miss Aziza, tell us about yourself, what you do.
Well, I currently am a account manager for a large medical device company. So I sell medical equipment and advanced wound care supplies into skilled nursing facilities and long-term acute care hospitals. I am a mother. I am a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a friend. I'm a sister. I am a lot of things.
I know that's right. Superwoman,
You
superwoman.
know, we gotta be sometimes.
Let me ask you, what how did you get into your field? What made you get into the field that you're in?
I would say prior to getting into this industry,
Mhm.
I was a caseworker in the state
Oh.
of Tennessee, and I loved clients. I loved hearing those stories.
Mhm.
I loved interacting with people. So customer focus is always my thing. I love being around people. I was a communication major. I love people of color. I was an AFR minor and women and gender studies minor. And so I always knew I would work in an industry where I
Mhm.
would help people. I moved to Texas about 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and I found out about a company that was a medical company, never had been in that industry before. Um, but it was a very good company. And so I ended up going there as a like a data steward. And so I was doing all this medical data migration. And these leaders that I kept meeting were like, you should go
Mhm.
into medical sales. And I was like, I don't have a medical background. I don't have a sales background. Um, and then I became an executive assistant for the VP of sales. And he said, I think that you will be really good at this. He was like, you're natural with people. And in the medical industry, like, you need someone who can relate to people. And so I just tried it. I said, well, why not? I'm
Mhm.
young, these people are seeing these things. I did do my research.
Uh-huh.
I spoke with different people. I went out on different field rides to see if this is something I'm going to like. If I'm going to dedicate most of my time, I need
You
to know
wanted
if
to
this
switch
is
the vibe.
something I want to do. And it was very intriguing to me to work in the wound care industry
Mhm.
and seeing these patients who are having um, these different experiences that are really lowering their quality of life. And me being a person who loves people and these products really saving people's lives from having to be amputated or,
Mhm.
you know, um, getting them back. You have these wounds that are draining and just all these different experiences and scenarios. Um, and I saw that I could really be a benefit and help people on a different level. So it was just honestly a God thing, I think.
Well, that is good. That is a blessing. Let me ask you this. It's kind of like going to be a two-part question. Since you
Mhm.
say you are a Black woman, melanated queen in
Mhm.
this field. So, how is it being in this field, and
Mhm.
what obstacles have you had to overcome to reach your success or
Oh
face?
gosh, it's so many things when you become a person who has
Mhm.
studied certain things and you receive
Mhm.
language for certain
Mhm.
experiences, and
Mhm.
now so you're asking yourself, well, am I experiencing this, or is it because I've learned about this and I know that it's happening? And so you question yourself a lot. Like, I think imposter syndrome was very real for me when I initially started in this industry, because there aren't a lot of people of color or Black people, Black women in this industry.
Yes.
Um, and so that was very hard for me, coming to work and being the only Black person on my floor or
Wow.
being the only Black person on my team. Um, I don't think that my coworkers or my superiors made me feel different, you
Mhm.
know, but you can just visibly see, the difference, in just different conversations that would be happening. And, that's not my experience. So I think that was a little bit challenging for me, and a lot of questions that I had to work through. And you call up your girls, you call up your mentors who are other Black women in these spaces, at different companies or whatever their industry is, and you're sharing these stories, and that's how you kind of get through that.
Wow.
Um, but I think that having this imposter syndrome, like, am I am I good enough to be here? Should I be here? Do I blend in when I'm going to, dinners with 12 executive, white people, and I'm the only person of color? It's like, did
Wow.
I work just as hard to get here? And so I think you're constantly questioning, you're constantly saying, well, now I have to give 130%, although this person over here is only giving 75, but I feel like I have to maintain this in order to say that I belong. So I think that that's a very real experience for
Mhm.
a lot of women in these spaces. So yeah.
I think it's sad that we are so talented, and like I just heard what you said about um the imposter syndrome and feeling like you're good enough and smart enough, when we all know, but it's the other people that created this atmosphere of uncomfortability for us. And
Mhm,
a lot of us don't, I think a lot of people, melanated people and women, don't go into a lot of spaces because of that, the
mhm,
challenge. And
mhm,
because it's like why you shouldn't have to question who you are and if
mhm,
you're good enough, because the system was set up for
mhm.
us to look like we're not good enough. So that is a blessing. And that's just leading me to basically the next question is, what's your superpower? And I guess, I mean, because with all of that, you had to have, what do you consider your super, as a Black woman, what superpowers you feel like you possess?
Oh my gosh. I would say the two biggest compliments I
Mhm.
ever received in life were, one was, you create culture. Like, no
Okay.
matter where you are, no matter where you go, you create an environment that people like want to be around you. People will interact with different types of people that they normally wouldn't interact with,
Mhm.
just because you're hosting this environment. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing, to know. And then the second thing was, someone told me, even when you whisper, people listen. And so I was like, wow, like, that's very powerful,
Yeah.
and so I think that just goes back to my overall goal of being customer focused, and,
Mhm.
being genuinely having this love for people,
Mhm.
especially people of color, to be their best, do their best. So yeah, I think just loving people, being genuine with people, giving them the space and the freedom to say, you're human. This is your
Mhm.
experience. That's your reality. Creating a safe place for people to be themselves, whether that's at work or at home. I think that that's something I do on a regular basis, no matter where I am. So that would be my
Okay. That
superpower.
that is beautiful.
Mm.
And like we were talking, you don't necessarily just, well, I guess you do own a business. You wrote poetry. That's a business. You um, doing all this other stuff. So I guess my question to you would be, um, and let me see how I can phrase this. What advice or what tips would you give Black women
Oh
today?
my
Or
gosh.
what tips out of all your experience, everything that you've learned and all this stuff,
Mm.
and knowing where you're at, what could you give us to walk away with? What could you give us? What tips could you give us?
I would say that life is a process. It's a journey, and be kind to yourself. It's okay. We're going to go through all these phases,
Mhm.
in our development. and it's all necessary. I think that we tend to be very hard on ourselves
Yeah.
and let others' expectations of us drive, what we do. And so I think that as Black women, we have to be kinder to ourselves. We have to give ourselves the freedom um, to be human, to
Mhm.
experience life like everyone else,
Mhm.
grant ourselves the same grace that we grant, other folks. I was talking to a friend earlier today and I told her, it's not a crime to put yourself first. Sometimes you're going to have to say no. Sometimes you're going to have to prioritize yourself or invest in people accordingly to how they're investing in you.
Mhm.
And I think that we just give and give and give, and do and do for and do. Every time someone asks us to be there or to do something, we're jumping. But who saves the Black woman?
Exactly.
Who jumps? When you're in need. And so for those people who do, you invest in them accordingly, and for those people who don't, you got to reprioritize some things. But
Mhm.
just grant yourself some grace and some kindness. That would be my best advice.
That is beautiful. Like you said, you gotta take care of yourself. Is so I get like you some it's okay to be selfish. I think a lot of us as Black women, we so like kind of going back to what you said when you say that you go into lunch or dinner with all these executives, and if you're good enough, and I think we kind of stay in that place because we're always doing, trying to
Mhm.
do more and more. And
Yeah.
I think we feel bad when we take that break.
Mhm. Exactly. It's like, no, I can kick my feet up and get my wine too and say I'm not being bothered with nobody. Don't knock on my door. I'm not parenting right now. you know,
None of that, none of that, none of that.
all of it.
Even the parenting. Like
No, don't
I'm not adulting today at all.
at all. Office hours were over at 9 p.m. So,
I know that's right.
yep.
And you hear that, women out there, it is okay to
Hmm.
not adult sometime. But I mean, it's needed. It's
Yeah.
I mean, we look at men and we always say the men need the man cave or they need their this and that time, and we'll say it, but most of the time, you got sports. Not saying all women don't participate in sports, but usually sports is like kind of was the man pastime. So yes, as women and especially Black women, we have to find that serenity, that
Yes.
I told you when I started the interview,
Yes.
I'm trying to get over in the beach with you.
I'm telling you, I'm manifesting this. I'm like, I tell myself little mantras every day, and I just
Mhm,
really believe to myself, like, no, like you are destined for this. You deserve to be here. You
mhm.
work just as hard as,
That's
everyone else.
right.
And so you also deserve to relax and break like everybody.
I know that's right. I mean, it's a lot. A lot of stuff is emotional and you don't
Mhm.
know it. So I can
Yeah.
just imagine. I'm so proud of you. And when you
Um,
said that you made it with your marketing and just listening to your story of where you've been, I just could
mhm.
imagine. I know I worked in corporations where you sit around and you're the only Black person.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
even though everything's okay and the people around you, it's just something emotionally in there
Yes.
that drains you to keep you,
It's like, am I in the right room? Am I supposed to? am I supposed to be
so,
here?
but you can't give up. You just keep
Mhm.
pushing. So
Yeah.
you're in a blessed place now. Are you comfortable now in your field, or
Oh,
is
yeah,
it still like
I love what I do. I love what I do. I love the
mm,
people that I'm surrounded with. I work
that's
for a
good?
great company. It makes me happy, but there are these things when you don't see people who look like you, when there's not a lot of representation. It's like, am I saying the wrong thing? Like, can I be myself? It's like you're just
Yeah,
constantly questioning every little move. Um, when you're the outlier, and so that's sometimes difficult managing, but that's no representation of the fact that I genuinely enjoy the
that's
work
good.
that I do. The people I'm surrounded by are, very nice people, but there's still this difference there. There's still this feeling of, I'm alone.
Let me ask you this. You do poetry and all that. How will we find you? How do we get some of your work? I know
Oh,
that
so
you're gonna perform for us, I think. So shout out. Yeah, I gotta get into the come on into the Queens
yeah.
online when you perform. But
Mhm.
how do we find you? How do we get some of your
So I go by Carmela Knight on social media.
Mhm. Is that a
My
K or a C?
It's a C.
Okay.
Carmella
Okay, Camilla Knight,
under.
is that an alter ego Beyonce?
Look, I say that's my highest self. Carmela Knight is my highest self.
Okay, love it, love it, love it.
And it's Knight, Knight. So Carmela underscore Knight on Instagram. And I haven't, this is special for Nikki because I haven't been writing in a while. I used to write often. I used to perform,
Wow.
often. And, with just some different things that have happened in my life, I'm ready to get back to that. And so
Okay.
when I'm during the Queen Summit, that is going to be the first time I perform, and I'm going to write a new piece in like 2 years. So this is special
Oh, we get
because I
special.
love me some Nikki.
Well, thank you, Nikki. We want to give a shout out to Nicole Compton for putting this
Yes,
together and
yes.
bringing that talent back out of you that we are all going to
Yes.
get to see. It's
I'm
been two
excited.
years, so I'm excited too to hear what you have to say and what you're going to bring. That is beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
before we end, is there anything else you would like us to know? And I do want to ask another question. Do
Yeah.
you encourage more you want more black women in the field that you in?
Yeah, I think that Black women would do wonderful in medical sales. I think that there is a larger conversation. I know we'll talk about education during one of the summit days, but I think that there's a larger conversation that needs to happen around what opportunities there are out there. I never knew that medical sales was a thing.
That's
That
what
would
I'm
have never,
saying. That's why I'm
you
asking because a lot of these jobs, with me interviewing different people like you and
know.
talking, I'm loving it because I
Yeah,
can't wait for the summit because I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, sister, how did you get into that?
yes,
I
yes.
mean, like, because you don't know these types of jobs
Mm-mm.
exist. I did mass control engineer, and when I got the job, because I had my degree, I didn't even know that type of job existed.
Right. Yep.
So that
Yep.
is amazing. So how do they? Oh, I don't know if you're going to be on the panel, but give us a tip of how they can start looking into the medical field. What is it? Medical sales field.
Medical sales, yes, there are a lot of companies out there. If you enjoy speaking to customers, if you enjoy, patients, I think just doing research, meeting people, honestly, networking is super important. Taking opportunities that, might not seem like they're for you. You just never know. I think that that's something that I have done in my life a lot that has landed me in different spaces that I never thought I would have landed in, but I was, willing to take the initiative to go out on a limb and to step into something new. Change is okay.
Thank
It's all
you.
right.
That's exactly that's beautiful. That is beautiful, and I thank you for coming and
No
let me interview
problem.
you today. I cannot wait to hear your work and see
Thank you.
you on the panel. And
Okay.
is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I appreciate this. Thank you. You are wonderful to speak with. Thank you, Nikki. This is going to be wonderful. I hope
Yeah.
everyone tunes in to the Queen Summit, and just continue to encourage and motivate one another. Yeah, that will be all.
Thank you so much.
Thank
21
you.
Queen Summit. Thank you, Nikki.
Bye.